Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kinze Service Training. Day 3 this week, and really want to say thank you for everybody joining and being with us this week. From a service training, we've really enjoyed the opportunity to change things up a little bit. The web-based training is something that we're still trying to add new things to. So today, in that same line, we're going to add a different camera angle for you. Zach on our team here has figured out a good way to add a little bit better quality live and or up close video. So as we walk around our blue drive components today, we'll have a little different angle. Hope that it's something that works out for you. My name is Phil Jennings. We have Brandon Veneman with us, and we want to make sure. And Zach, we just mentioned, is behind all of our cameras, making things happen. We've got Kurt on board as a monitor for us as we get into our questions. But also a big thanks to the rest of the marketing team, Sherry and Scott, for making things work today. Guys, a little bit of housekeeping as we get started. We continue to have a lot of questions on the format. So working with teams, there are some things that we need to do for these larger size meetings like this. Number one, we are not using chat. The chat function on Teams is not really conducive to this large of a group, so we are not using the chat feature. We are, though, using Q&A, right? So we want this to be interactive. Let's make sure we use the Q&A function to throw questions at us as we go through the meeting, and then Zach or Kurt or somebody is going to, as our moderators, will help pick those up, and we'll do our best to get those answered along the way. We have tried to let you know that if you're on a mobile device and accessing Teams through a browser, so if you're on your phone and going through a Chrome or a Safari or an Edge, the Q&A function is not visible when you use a mobile device with a web browser. Okay, so if that's the case, guys, and you want to get involved with this, and also at the end when we post the link for the survey to get your attendance record, it's going to come up in Q&A. So either apply the app to your mobile device or find a spot to sit down with a laptop or a larger screen so you can enjoy the close-up pictures that we're going to have today during the presentation. So attendance and or registration, if you will, for the event today will be through a link that we post in Q&A at the end of the session. Guys, if it doesn't come through, we still field a lot of those questions. You're not able to access it. We've had some folks that said, hey, I clicked on it and it didn't take me to the survey. Apologize for any inconveniences there. We know the survey is working. It is live. Just let us know. Shoot us an email at dealerconnect@kinze.com, and we can get that link sent directly to you via email as well. So dealerconnect@kinze.com, and we'll get it sent to you at the end of the session as well. So let us know either way. We want to make sure that you're counted and that your name gets put in the drawing for some Kinze swag. So those of you that have been with us the last couple of days too, your chances increase for each day that you participate. So thank you for being here. All right, today, like I've mentioned, is our blue drive diagnostics. Guys, we're going to walk from the tractor cab all the way back to the closing wheels, so to speak, and we're going to look at the blue drive components being Ethernet connectivity, how we link things together, communication through auxiliary modules, all of those types of things, both camera walk around, and then we'll be involved in the Blue Vantage display and the diagnostic workflows there. We'll also be diving into the operator manuals as well. So those of you that are joining on other devices, great to have an opportunity to be on the portal as well and see where we're going with those directions. I think that's going to get us ready to go. Anything else that I've missed, Brandon?
I don't think so.
Okay. With that, guys, like I said, we're going to try something new. We're going to switch camera angles as we get up and start walking around, but we're going to start in the tractor cab, and we'll get going with the blue drive diagnostics. All right, I'm walking through this, guys. It's given me the opportunity to share the screen, and we're going to do this. And Zach's going to be our cameraman at this point in time. And we'll use this to go around. So first off, we can say thank you to our test team here that's provided us with the tractor and the planter combination. Guys, we've got a 12-row 5900. It's kind of been sitting behind us the last couple of sessions as well. But you'll notice there's a lot going on with all the extra test equipment here. But I'll turn it over to Brandon and Zach in the cab.
Yep. A couple things here, guys. We talked about the Blue Vantage install on day one in conjunction with our Blue Vantage software preview. A couple things that I want to talk about here first before I start showing you physical connections. As you can see here at the top, guys, we have this little battery icon up here. We do get quite a few questions asking what that battery icon or indicator actually is. That is a sign that we are not currently charging the battery. So I have the tablet just turned on here. We're not actually getting power from the tractor. So that's what's telling us here, hey, we're using the battery power that's in here and it's not charging. So in order to get this charging, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and click on my key power here. I'm gonna steal that from you, Zach. Give him a little better view here. Easy indicator for you guys to know if we're getting power. You can see right there on the little inverter, we have a green light. As you can see here, our harness coming into the inverter is then plugged into our convenience port on the tractor back here. So if you guys are struggling to get power, if you have the key power turned on, but you're not getting power to the display, and you have that battery icon, it's important to remember there is an inline fuse up here. So make sure we don't overlook that. But quick, easy visual indicator will be that green light there on the power inverter. All right. Last component here I want to talk about, guys. We also are connected via Ethernet. So as we go through the discussion today, you guys will know, or already probably know, we're one of the only manufacturers to utilize Ethernet communication across our machine. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to hand this back to you, Zach, while I pop this out of the dock here. And I don't know if you can see it, Zach, if you can get up in here. We actually have an Ethernet connection right here in the back of the dock. So that's going to be the start of our Ethernet chain from the Blue Vantage moving back. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and slap this back in the dock for now. We'll go ahead and go to the rear of the machine and we'll start working our way back in terms of how this Ethernet communication goes from the Blue Vantage to the rear of the machine.
As they're moving around here, guys, and bringing the camera back, as we come out of the tractor cab, there was that plug-in in the back of the dock. That's going to get us to our first connection point. And then between the tractor and the planter, this interface we've talked about before when we talked hydraulics a little bit yesterday, and even on Monday when we talked about the main power harness. Guys, from the bulkhead on the planter to the tractor, there's a lot going on, and we want to make sure that, number one, routing and retention, so we keep them out of harm's way, but also sometimes we need different lengths. Okay, so the Blue Vantage is going to come with a predetermined length or distance on this extension cable, but if we need different lengths for a four-wheel drive setup or something like that, guys, check in the operators or the parts manual, I should say, and on those pages they will list extension harnesses or Ethernet cables, in this case, of different lengths to allow you to get the routing that you want for your connection. Turn it back over to Brandon.
Yep, no worries. So we'll work our way back from the Ethernet bulkhead up here, like Bill was saying. The next thing I want to mention, guys, is actually kind of tucked away here between our fertilizer tanks and our bulk fill tanks here. And Zach, I don't know how you can pick it up, so I'll turn a flashlight on here. So this is our power pack or alternator here. There are two batteries within this alternator here. It's important, guys, beginning of season, we need to be checking conditions of those batteries. So if these batteries don't have 12-volt charges, we will not be able to excite the alternator to output our 24-volt voltage to the rest of the modules in the system. So we'll look at it a little bit here on BV. The Blue Vantage will actually show you if those batteries are up to snuff as far as voltage goes. But preseason maintenance here, give them a check, put them on a trickle charger, or replace if needed. So it's important to make sure those batteries are ready to go before day one of planting. So we'll keep working our way around the machine here. Couple things I will mention as we work our way to the rear. We'll start talking aux IPNs. You're probably used to the ones located in the middle of the machine. It's important to note we do have aux IPNs on both sides of the planter, so a left-hand aux and a right-hand wing aux. Those are going to be located here on this specific machine. So we work our way around. We get quite a few questions on IPP modules or position sensors as they'll appear on the health screen. We have one located on each end of the wing, so this would be the one that would show under row 1 on the health screen. There's the same module and a similar mounting location on the far right-hand side of the machine as well, but they're also going to be located here in the middle. So let me take this cover off. I'm going to show you some more of those auxiliary IPNs and kind of give you a theme of how we're connecting all those different modules with the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and start tearing into this.
Guys, as we do this, these covers just sit on the top, and there's a clip on either side. They can fight you a little bit, so don't be afraid to wiggle them around a little bit to break loose any dirt that's in there. You can see that they carry a little bit of dust, but they are a good protective coating for the auxiliary modules.
Yep, good point. So we talked about the bulkhead connection up there at the front of the machine, guys, as far as Ethernet goes. From that bulkhead connection, guys, we're running an Ethernet cable back into what we call the IPR, right? So you can see here it does differ from our traditional IPNs because we have a series of Ethernet connections located here at the bottom, all right? And it is appropriate labeled as IPR up here as well. So that's what I'm going to call the brain of the planter. If you guys are curious, or if you've asked before, we do get quite a few questions on can we use the same tablet on different machines? This is going to be where the planter model information is stored. So this module here is not only what communicates the data we're receiving from the planter to the Blue Vantage, but it's also going to allow us to utilize any Blue Vantage display because this will store all that information that is planter specific as far as configuration goes. It's kind of a mess to see here, guys. You can kind of see some theme of what I'm about to describe here. We will pull it up on the Blue Vantage here shortly as far as the Ethernet communication and wiring diagram that we have. So we go from Blue Vantage to bulkhead, bulkhead to IPR, and then our IPR Ethernet connections are then going to be going into what we call our aux modules here. As you can see, these are currently flashing, so I know I have my 12-volt power here. I only have the key switch on, so it may be struggling a little bit, which is why we see it flashing here. But in terms of these different aux IPNs, I just want to make it a point to you guys that these are 12-volt power, whereas our row unit IPNs are going to be 24-volt power. So it's important to note, like Phil mentioned the other day as well, we don't need the PTO pump or anything running to unfold the planter. So these modules here would allow us to unfold the planter, but then they also allow us to communicate with all the different row unit IPNs on the machine. So
as an example, guys, if I travel down here, we've got one of the row units with the cover off, and I'm going to go around and we're going to be able to take a look at the row unit IPN. No light, no indication of anything else. We do not have the alternator running, so all of our row unit functions that operate on the 24-volt alternator system, no lights of any kind. The modules that are 12-volt keyed power in this case, so that we can fold and unfold without requiring a PTO pump connection or hydraulic alternator running, are still going to be lit.
Yep. Then some theme and variation here, guys. As you can see, we have black IPNs here. I may be jumping the gun a little bit, but important thing to note, guys, these aux IPNs are going to be the same as the row unit IPNs, all right? Pending we have all black IPNs, they'll be usable anywhere across the machine. The reason I say all black, during COVID, we actually did have some gray bottom IPNs, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with due to some component shortages during that time. It's important to note those gray bottom IPNs will only be used on row units, but however, black IPNs can be used across the machine. So if we're going out to a customer's unit or we're rolling into that springtime, it definitely does not hurt to have one of these black IPNs in the truck. Also doesn't hurt to have a Ethernet cable of a decent size length to do some troubleshooting with. So whether it's a hard connection between the IPR and the dock, for instance, to troubleshoot, maybe we have an issue at our bulkhead connection. Like I said, a long Ethernet cable and one of these black IPNs is a great tools to have in the truck because they can be used anywhere. So only thing you may run into is some different orientations of the Ethernet cable here, but in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty minor. So yeah, we have Ethernet cable or Ethernet communication coming out of the IPR into an aux IPN. Then we also have another Ethernet cable coming out of the aux IPN, and that'll then connect through our row unit IPNs through a series of daisy chains. So like I said, it'll be easier to show you guys when we get back to the Blue Vantage. Can actually pull it up on the screen instead of trying to trace it through the toolbar here. But just note all of that information or all that planar data is coming through an aux IPN into an IPR and then up to the Blue Vantage. All right. So we mentioned the alternator on the way through. We mentioned that 24-volt power is what powers our row unit IPNs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to jump up here to the toolbar, Phil. I know it's a little messy up in here. It's important to note, guys, we have a toolbar harness coming up here. This is going to be our 24-volt power into our row unit IPN. Try and make it a little easier here. And there's a series of power ground coming in to the connector off the toolbar harness. And then the rest of our black wires here are what tell us, or what tells the display what row that IPN is associated with. So we got power coming into the row unit harness. Obviously, we'll have some different connections here, whether we're connected to our fertilizer in this case or our true depth cartridge valve. But as we work our way back through, that row unit harness is going to connect into a couple different things here. But main connection I want to talk about is going into the actual row unit IPN. So we have 28 volts or 24 to 28 volts from the alternator coming into this row unit IPN. And then that row unit IPN is then going to step down that voltage to give meters, delivery tubes, cartridge valve, and whatnot the appropriate voltage level. So we're not sending 24 volts to the seed meter driver, for instance. So that IPN is stepping down that voltage internally, so that way we're sending the right voltage to the right parts. So I know this row unit is pretty messy here, guys, but like I said, we have different connections here. This is a true rate machine, so we got a true rate meter plug and the ESD discharge cable. But then otherwise, guys, we're going down into our load link right here and the C-tube sensor and whatnot. So all that information, again, coming back into this row unit IPN here. And because there's only one Ethernet cable coming into this, that tells me that it's at the end of a daisy chain, which we'll discuss later on the Blue Vantage. All right. Is there anything I'm missing, Phil?
No, I think we should get back and start looking at that harness configuration and what that means as far as a troubleshooting aspect if we lose communication.
Yep.
All right. We'll head back to the table and we'll fire up our Blue Vantage. And we'll give the camera angle back to Zach. Huh, got a big thumbs up from Zach. That seemed to work. Kind of fun to try, guys. An opportunity, hopefully, to do as much as we can to continue being as interactive as possible here.
Now that we have you back, we actually have some questions, pretty much regarding what we just talked about. The first question is, where is the center IPP located on the 5670?
Okay, the IPP, and guys, we can certainly jump back to that other camera view if we want to walk around or highlight some other things, but IPPs or position sensors, there are 3 on every technology planter, Blue Vantage machine. There's one connected to each outside row, and there is one at the center that comes off the harness for the auxiliary modules. Okay, so where you find those auxiliary modules, you will find the center IPP. Didn't point it out when we were back there, but we certainly can.
Yep.
In fact, while we're thinking about it, Kurt should probably go shut the key off on that tractor. We don't need to leave that run. But effectively, we can certainly go back and show you, but know that there's one on each outside row. So row 1, and in this case, row 12. And then there's one located with the auxiliary module in the center of the machine. Okay.
Will there ever be a battery tender built into the machine?
Questions come up several times. Unfortunately, it becomes a cost association, meaning we can go purchase one and install here at the dealership level, if you will, much more cost effectively than we can do a factory install. So know a number of guys that have done it. When they store the planter for the winter, they plug in one of the tenders so that they maintain a charge throughout the storage season. So certainly recommended, just not something that Kinze has available at this time.
What is the proper light pattern / blink for the modules?
We're going to get into that here very quickly, guys. For those of you that are familiar with it, the red flashing that we saw back there is not what we want to see. That, in fact, would be an error message to us, but we will go over the lights here very shortly.
Why do planners have 24-volt alternator when the row unit IPN setting steps the voltage down?
Really depends on the functionality. A lot of the sensors within the different configurations need the lower voltage for what they're doing within the seed sensor, for example. They are operating at the lower voltage for the finer electronics within the sensors. Yeah, very good. All right, guys, I think we're going to jump right into some of those lights as well as the communications. So I'm going to drive here and go to the Blue Vantage display. We've got it powered up, and we're going to go into our training mode so that we can act as we're connected to the planter. So now we've got our planter coming online. In this case, I'm not necessarily going to start a task. I'm just going to go straight to my health screen. So as I look at my health screen, a couple of different things. Ethernet is how we communicate, and that's where we're going to start. How do I know what that harness routing looks like? Because what you will find is if we do have a communication related concern, we will often lose a group or a block of rows. Okay. Using our diagnostics button and underneath our workflows. Okay. The first one that we have up here, guys, is communication harness routing. Now, pick our machine, right? So there's a 24-row, there's a 16-row. We are working on the 12-row size. And always remember that when you're on the diagnostics, you can click on the page and we can increase the size of this. We can also zoom in even closer if we want to on the screen. But in this particular case, we're going to be able to walk ourselves through all of the Ethernet connections, just like Brandon walked us through from the dock of the tablet. And remember, this first one at the dock was that Cat5 clip-in plug as opposed to the round Cat5. From here on out, we have the round Cat5. This is our tractor connection cable we talked about having different lengths of extensions for and getting us to that bulkhead, right? Bulkhead back to the IPR, and then from the different ports on the IPR, you're going to find out where we're tracing wires. So for example, we were looking at center row, in this case 5, that we had the hopper off of, and Brandon noted that the IPN on that row only had one cable coming to it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, row 5, single cable and a cap. That's because it's at the end of this communication chain. There's nothing else connected beyond it. Otherwise, you're going to find that we use the term daisy chain together multiple rows. So if we happen to lose communication between rows 1, 2, and 3, using this diagram, from a troubleshooting standpoint, I'm going to be coming over here and I'm going to be looking at row 4 because that's the source of the communication that goes to all of the other modules. That makes sense, guys? Okay, it's a wiring schematic that's going to let us see that pattern that popped up on our screen. We lost 3 in a row. Recognize that that communication pattern starts here with row 4. That's where we're going to begin our troubleshooting process. Okay. But you can also then start to see how we connect all of the components here. Right? Even out to cameras, fertilizers, and other options. We've failed to note there is an Ethernet switch on the back of this machine. Guys, this is on every technology planner because the camera option is standard. So there is an Ethernet switch on the back, and you'll notice we use that router to the switch, and it gives us a lot more opportunity to plug in not only multiple cameras in this case, but we use it to power through our fertilizer IPN as well. Okay. Now, that's the communication. You'll notice they're all of the harnesses are listed in here, guys. So regardless of the machine that we're looking at, all of those are going to be found in that diagnostic workflow. Okay. Now, communication is indicated by the lights on the IPNs. And this is one thing that was designed into the system, guys, to hopefully take some of the pain out of the troubleshooting process, because we all know in the service industry, it's not if it fails, it's when it fails. We want to be prepared for that. We want to be efficient with our troubleshooting process. And in many cases, our customers are able to assist, especially when it comes to Blue Vantage systems, because first and foremost, if I have a light on a module, I know that I have power. So right away, I don't need a voltmeter out to start checking harnessing. I can simply look and make sure that I have a light, and that light is going to indicate that I have power to the module. Now, what is that light doing? And what is it telling us? So there's a series of colors, and we also notice that we could have a solid light or we could have a blinking light. So in any case, you may see these colors back on there, or if you're watching during power up, oftentimes it will go through a series of those lights, especially if we're in this time of year where we may be doing software upgrades. Okay, it's not uncommon to see the light change color and come back to what we're looking for is always a solid green. Okay, that solid green is truly where we want to be for everything else. If we don't have it, we're going to have to figure out why. So green solid is our no further action required. Green blinking is one of the indicators that we have power and that the module itself is 100% functional. It just has nobody to talk to, all right? There's no communication coming in and out of the Ethernet data ports. So this is where we'd go back to that Ethernet harness diagram and start figuring out why. Okay, the lights go on, the red blinking, we're not booting up correctly. In this case, it was low voltage. We know that based on the fact that the tractor was not running. So we always want to make sure we've got solid voltage out there. We will talk about orange IPNs a little bit more in detail as well. That's one that we've seen that can not necessarily limit functionality, but it means that that module should stay in its original location. It's identifying only on that row. But and it goes on, guys. Most predominantly, always look to make sure that we have the light to indicate power, and always make sure that that light is solid green. If at any point in time that we lose a module, doesn't matter where, okay, it will not allow us to get into plant mode. Okay, I'm going to pop back out to our home screen here, guys. When we fire things up, we know that when we started that planter up, it looks and says, hey, these are my 12-volt modules. And if I get to here, I can move this planter around, I can fold, I can unfold. Once I start my power pack and it starts looking at all of my row modules, if I don't have any, if I have a loss of any component back there, auxiliary or otherwise, it will not allow us to go to the plant function. Okay, that's where we're looking back here on our health screen and saying, I'm missing something somewhere. The health screen should be all green as well. That solid green is always our intuitive good to go. If I run into anything that has a red icon on it, I need to figure out why. Or in this case, if it's communication, it could be gray. You'll notice, for example, I'm not connected. I have no connectivity to my Blue Connect account here on this tablet. If I have no connectivity to a row unit communication, it's going to be gray, just like this as well. So that gray is an indication that maybe I have power, maybe I have full module functionality, but maybe I just don't have communication to it. So there is the health screen that should give us those indications. Guys, the other thing that I would tell you is when we look at our auxiliary modules, you'll notice these are the ones that are all noted. And in this case, because we're plugged into a wall outlet, we're showing 14 volts. But all of these are considered auxiliary modules that will come on with tractor power. All right, these are the ones that will show the 12.5, 13, in this case 14 volts. When I get to my my row units, we're looking for that higher voltage input to make sure that we have the alternator operating correctly. All right, as long as we're on the health screen and we're talking voltages, Brandon mentioned our power pack, the alternator back there. So let's go to our power pack indicator. Couple things with the power pack. Let's start with the batteries. Brandon mentioned coming out of storage this time of the year, it's pretty important that we do a maintenance check on our batteries. They are a standard lawnmower size, so there's nothing special about those batteries. The only thing special is the fact that they are wired in series. All right, just like we talk about daisy chaining the row units together, we've daisy chained two 12-volt lawn garden batteries together to get our 24-volt output. These batteries do not run the meters. These batteries are put into place to excite the alternator field and get it to fire up, and it also provides us with voltage stabilization. So any output from an alternator has a certain frequency to it. Running them or connecting them through the batteries stabilizes that voltage and is best for the electronics on the planter. So they're acting as a capacitor, if you will. Without the voltage, we're not going to excite the alternator and get it to kick on. So we need to make sure that we have a minimum voltage on those batteries. Once they do excite the alternator to full output, it will help to maintain the charge on those batteries throughout the use season of the machine. Okay. While we're looking at it, not just the battery voltages, so battery 1, battery 2 are independent, but also the other thing I would have you look at, guys, is when we're spooling these things up, alternator frequency is important to us. There's a couple of different alternators being used. If we look at the diagnostic information on the portal, there are slightly different frequencies, which is the operating RPM. So roughly, we want to see over 300. So 320, 350 is going to put us in the ballpark even for both alternators. If we're not seeing over 300 hertz or 300 RPM of that alternator, we may not be getting full output. So another troubleshooting if we're looking at voltage requirements for the operation of the system. Okay. All right. Checking my sheet here. Guys, one other thing that we're looking at on the health screen, and it goes back to what we're looking at in color on the IPNs. Comes up year after year here in the last few, but IPNs, number one, I mentioned if they quit functioning for whatever reason, it's going to kick you out of a task. We won't be able to plant. If it's communication related, it's Ethernet based. What if it's internal to the module? What does that mean? What does loss of the module look like? Effectively, guys, if it's something that makes the module inoperative, we will not be able to reboot it or revive it. We will have to replace it, and that will be evident as we look at the communication of the row module information here. What we will also see, and I'm going to go back to my diagnostic screen, is most likely a solid red icon. Okay, it does occur. It has occasionally happened. In the same token, we're going to give you some information about making sure that we can check pins and connectors and reboot, etc. But here's the location of the LED specifically on that IPN. It may have been hard to see in the camera feed before, and then the two Ethernet connections. All of the plugs are labeled. You can a little bit see here, J7, J6, J5. So when it comes to the troubleshooting, and we're going to look more specifically at wiring harnesses here in just a minute, it will give you a location. So we need to look at the J3 connection and then be able to look at pinouts. Okay. The one that we see, guys, that gets questioned is an orange icon or orange light on the IPN. Guys, an orange IPN does not mean that it isn't going to function. And an orange IPN, when we look at it on the health page, is going to be missing a small segment. It'll have a portion of that row unit simply blacked out, so it will be visible. The row unit itself will still be green in color because it's fully functional, but an orange IPN should remain located on the same row that it's on. It's not going to be something that can be removed and put on row 2 or used in an auxiliary location. Okay, if an IPN goes orange, leave it be. It will still remain fully functional for that location. Guys, if that error occurs, it has to do with the location Brandon mentioned, row unit harness. We can check that, but there is an opportunity for resistance loss inside the module that also indicates location. And we have a check for that, so we can identify root cause. But while the planter's planting, wheels are turning, there's no reason here to shut the machine down. Okay. Just note that that loss of a portion is going to just say, hey, leave it alone, leave it in that location, and the IPN will continue to function as normal. All right, orange IPN. We've gotten from the cab back to the back, Ethernet communication. We looked at where to find that routing on the display in the diagnostics. We've talked about the modules themselves and what the lighting means from a troubleshooting aspect. I think what's left from a blue drive troubleshooting is the actual wiring harnesses, like the row unit harness for power and those types of things. Guys, we're going to focus the next little segment here on looking up harnessing. We get a lot of questions regarding, does Kinze provide that information? I need to look specifically at a pin or I need to trace power, those types of things. Over the years, Kinze continues to improve those opportunities, and they are found within the operator parts manual. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandon, and we're going to actually get on the dealer web portal, and we're going to figure out how we want to look at and find that information if I need to trace a harness. Okay.
Alrighty. Let me jump on over here. All right, guys. So to begin with, I have obviously opened up the Kinze business portal here. I do have a hypothetical scenario here, so I do have an actual serial number which we're going to run, and we are going to pull up a roll unit harness like Phil mentioned. So, heat of the battle, it's always the question: can I fix it or do I need to replace it? When the customer's running and doesn't want to stop, of course, that answer is usually can you fix it? So, like Phil alluded to, we get a lot of questions regarding where these are located, how can we find them. So I'm going to kind of walk you guys through the process here of how we go about, one, identifying what part number we need, should we need to replace it, and then two, utilizing that part number. How do I find the associated print so I can splice wires together if need be? So to begin with, guys, I'm always going to recommend we search for a specific manual by serial number, right? With all the different configurations and machines and production years, it's critical that we come up with the correct manuals for the serial number. So a couple different ways we can get to the serial number inquiry feature here, guys. As you can see, I clicked on parts, and we do have it available in part. You can also click on whole goods and get to the same scenario there. We can also click on service and warranty. So I'm going to go to serial number inquiry right here through service and warranty. Once that loads, I'm going to type in my serial number, which is 123043. It's going to tell us some basic machine information. Of course, we can see who it's sold to and whatnot, but you won't be able to see that on your end, guys, unless it's a planter that you retailed through your dealership. But I'm going to come down here to the associated manual section. So as you can see, we have a couple different ones here, whether it be Blue Vantage. This is a true rate machine with the serial number I typed in, so we have a true rate meter performance supplement. But then we also have an operation and parts manual. All right. When it comes to finding part numbers, guys, I'm always going to recommend we start in the parts book. So I clicked on that blue link. It is a hyperlink. It took me to the library with those associated manuals. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to download parts book.
Guys, in this case, with the two manuals listed, you'll notice it's the same part number. One said -01, the other one said -02. That's how Kinze identifies the difference between the operation and maintenance section and is 01. The -02 is specifically parts breakdowns. Okay, there's not going to be any other operation or troubleshooting information in the -02. It's strictly going to be identification of parts.
Yep. All right. So like I said before, guys, we have our parts book pulled up here, and we are wanting to find the row unit harness. All right. So you can see over here on the left, we do have a table of contents here. I know we have a row unit section labeled here, but the row unit harness, as well as most of the electrical harnesses on this machine, will be contained within the electrical section of the book. So I'm going to drop this down here. As we go through, you'll see there's some Ethernet interconnect schematics and then regular interconnect schematics. It's kind of similar to what we saw on the Blue Vantage, guys. If we click on those Ethernet schematics, it's going to be the same pictures, but we're going to show you the part numbers associated with those Ethernet cables. All right. So I'm going to want to come down to the actual interconnect schematic because this will show all of the harnesses on the machine. So I'm going to go back to my serial number here. Looks like this is a 24 row 20.
Hey, Brandon, while you're on that same page, showing Ethernet.
Yep.
Zoom in to that.
Right up top here.
Yes. Guys, we talked about the different lengths of cables between the tractor and the planter bulkhead. Right there's your answer. You can see The one cable, the 265 length, is the one that came with the standard package, but we have a 375 out there with a part number for that extended length for, in this case, it's noted as an articulated tractor configuration. So there's your example of a harness length change or an extension, if you will, based on application that you can find in the manual.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt there.
Nope,
Brent.
you're fine. One last thing I'm going to look at here, guys. This is a production year 26 planner. That is important when I come down here to my interconnect schematic, because I find 2026 production and onward. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Zoom back out here slowly. Try and make you guys not too sick. But as I scroll through here, guys, like I said, this will show you part numbers for essentially all the different wiring harnesses across this entire machine. So we start looking at, like we talked about yesterday, or on Monday, excuse me, that fuse connection Phil talked about with our tractor power harness. It's all labeled here. But as we go through, guys, we'll keep scrolling. I haven't seen anything. There's another call out for articulated. Should we need extensions? Haven't seen anything on row unit harnesses yet, so I'm gonna keep scrolling. Right here, right? True rate row unit harnesses. Right, you'll see there's two different call outs here because we have two different row unit harnesses depending on if we need that IPP connection or the position sensor in which we talked about earlier. All right, for this example, I am going to pull up the print for the harness without the IPP. So I'm going to write myself a note here that is a G11015901. All right, so we have the part number here. If we wanted to get a replacement coming for the customer, we could give this to our parts guy. He could get it on order. But of course, the customer wants to keep running while that one's on its way from Kinze. So I'm going to jump back to the library here. I'm going to switch over to the operator's manual, like Phil said, the -01 PDF here. Download that. I'm going to hit open.
Why are we going to the operator's manual, Brandon?
Yep. So the operator's manual here, as you can see, based off my table of contents, we have a lubrication and maintenance as well as a troubleshooting section here. So the parts manual is going to be, how do I buy the parts to replace something? The operator's manual is going to be, how does it work? How can I work on it? What should I be doing for maintenance, etc. So I'm actually going to jump down here to the lubrication and maintenance section. As I scroll through here, you'll see basic things, whether it be gauge wheel adjustment, markers, meters, whatnot. But as I start to work my way down here, you see I see fertilizer harnesses, 12-volt power harnesses, scales, true rate pole unit harness. There's my my harness number I'm looking for here. So like click on that, guys, it pulls it open here. And if I scroll down, so you can see here, the operation or operator's manual is pulling up the old one here, but it is replaced by the 11015901 that I searched. But meat and potatoes here, guys, if we zoom in, we will give you the entire pinout of this entire harness. So not only are we going to label connectors so you know what those different connectors are going to, but we're going to show you pin to pin, color, gauge of the wire, etc. So all of that is contained here.
I think it's important, guys, that we know that this is, as we term it, a little bit of a Kinzeism. Sometimes Kinze does things a little bit differently, for better or for worse. And in this particular case, having to go to the parts section to identify it, and then having go to the operator maintenance or troubleshooting section to see the actual pinout diagram may be a little bit cumbersome for some. Yes, we've been asked about, can we do a hot link between the two manuals for doing this on the computer, etc. Right now, our current functional level is we have to go to one place to identify the part. We have to go to the other manual to identify the pinout level diagram. Okay, so guys, if you're ever struggling with that and aren't able to come up with something, please don't hesitate to reach out. We don't want you searching for that information if you're needing it in the field. like we always say, get a hold of us, shoot us a note on dealerconnect@kinze.com. We can email these diagrams out to you as well, so you can have them on your phone or on your tablet for field use if you need it.
Yep. And one, excuse me, one last thing I want to mention here before we kind of wrap it up. We talked about some commonality for parts across the machine, whether it be Ethernet cables or those black IPNs as we did our walk around of the machine here. Obviously, I called out earlier, we have two different part numbers here, guys, for the row unit harnesses. The one just has the extra IPP connector. If you guys want to have one of these in the truck, don't hesitate to take that one with the IPP connection, guys. You can utilize that harness with the IPP connector on the row units without the IPP, right? That connection will just be capped. So if you want to have one to keep in the truck, that'll be your universal fix or troubleshooting tool. Don't hesitate to keep that one with the IPP connection in the truck. So makes it easier that way than having one of each.
Yep, absolutely. Row unit harness, a chunk of Ethernet cable. Recognize, guys, that even though you looked at different lengths on those planter schematics, the length isn't a factor if we have one in the truck. If we had one that was too long, we can utilize it for a jump between singular row units, and we can simply coil up the excess. It's not going to be a factor of length if we wanted to keep one for troubleshooting purposes. So, all right. Thank you much, Brandon.
Yep.
Okay, we're kind of there in regard to what we had planned for today in regard to Blue Drive, as far as connectivity of Ethernet and in any of the harness specific pinout information and where to find that. Looks like we've got a few more questions. So Zach, I'll turn you loose.
Sounds good. Yeah, we have quite a few questions. Our first question starts with a little bit of a story. Had a local John Deere dealer work on a customer's tractor, and when they hooked up the Kinze harness to the tractor, the batteries they hooked up the ground cable to a 12-volt, which caused a thermal event with visual effects. It was on a 4905 and was hooked up correct when new. My question is, can you put a fuse on the ground wire underneath the bulk fill fan to prevent this? If so, what amp?
Interesting question. May require a little more information than we have details to answer today. So that one, I'm going to tell you, I'm sure that that's something that could be researched, but I would want to include our Kinze Electronics team in that conversation. So we'll note that and we'll holler back at you with that answer when we get through with our Kinze Electronics team. Thank you.
Can you hook up the Ethernet cables backwards on the row unit IPNs?
Okay. Excellent question, guys. All of the standard IPNs have two Ethernet. There's a J1, J2. Technically, it doesn't matter. Okay. So in many cases, if I have a IPN off of a row unit and I didn't mark them, for example, or they didn't lay out, it's not going to change functionality or change performance of it. We can go in and out with either terminal on the IPN. Good question.
What needs to be done if the Blue Vantage fails to boot up to the Kinze operating system properly? I've had a customer contact me about the Blue Vantage being stuck in pre-boot system performance check. He also mentions I was unable to join the first day of training, so if this has been covered, disregard, thank you. I think you can still give him an answer.
Oh, absolutely. Guys, we try to differentiate, Blue Vantage is the operating system in the tablet. Blue Drive is all of the planner components and the meter components and everything else. It's all a system that has to work together. Guys, if we have any concerns with our Blue Vantage tablets, and as we're getting them out of storage, whether it be how we boot it up or error messages that come up for time and date, by all means, simply get the tablet back to the dealership, contact us here at Kinze, either sending us a note at dealerconnect@kinze.com or simply submitting a warranty. We are using the warranty system as the vehicle to track and monitor where these are at, repairs that need to be made, when it gets made, etc. So get your display back from your customer, let us know, and we'll help you get it returned to Kinze for repair.
If you are having a communication issue, is there a button to do a mass reboot of the modules, or do you have to reboot the Blue Vantage display?
Couple of different things, guys. If I'm going to reboot a system, I'm going to do it both by shutting off the alternator. So I remove 24 volts from all of my modules on the machine, but I'm also going to power down the display, which then removes all of the power from the auxiliary module. So that question is, there's not just a magic button on the display. No, we're simply going to remove power, shut everything down, let it sit for a minute, power everything back up and reboot.
Is the alternator Kinze specific, or can it be bought at a local auto parts store?
No, the alternator is a lot like some other Kinze components, meaning you can purchase in other places. The 24-volt alternators are used in the trucking industry, and they are available. They're used on trucks, buses, other things, so they are common.
Could you put the part numbers of the harnesses in the ops manual?
The part number of the harnesses are located in both books, okay? Brandon took us through a process that started in the parts book first because it's easier to identify location or where in the system the harness is located. When we get into the operator section where we were looking for that pinout, they are listed by function and by part number there as well. So if you already have the part number, you can skip the parts section. Maybe you pulled it right off of the harness label. You can go right to that operator section. You can do a Control F or a find in that PDF, type your part number in, it should take you immediately to that page.
Will the row unit strapping tables ever be published?
They are published, it just as we looked, guys. The row unit power harnesses, which are indeed that strapping table, if you will, are shown in the pinout for the harness in the book.
We are a new Kinze dealer. Currently, we have a new 5670 planter here. I was wondering if you can run the markers and the pneumatic closing wheels without the PTO and alternator running.
Number one, thank you for being a new dealer and having a 5670. That's awesome. Those are functions that are required to be in a task, okay? So that means that we have to have those other modules fired up with 24 volts. Alternator has to be running. So in this particular case, no, I'm sorry, you will have to engage the PTO for that to happen.
Does Kinze offer pins and connectors to repair harnesses?
I'm going to tell you that's a little bit of a trick question because we do for some and not for all. Okay. Okay. Some of the connectors that are maybe a little more Kinze specific, we have provided some pins in the past. And there is an electronic or electrical service kit out there, but it's not going to cover most of what we just looked at. So if we're looking at the Deutsch connectors and the Molex connectors that we see on most of the Blue Vantage equipment, those are common within the rest of the industry. And we're banking on the fact that you've got other packages already for your tractors, your combines, and other equipment. So Kinze is not providing those. We'll tell you to grab those from a local source.
That is the last question we currently have.
Right.
We can go ahead and post the survey and the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a wrap up. Once again, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us today. A lot of information in the hour. We did make it just within the hour at this point in time. Once again, in that Q&A, guys, find it. Zach's posted the link for our participation survey. That's going to get you not only registered for attendance today, but it's also going to make sure you get registered for our drawing. If we don't see that, or you're unable to access the Q&A, or in some cases, if the link doesn't seem to take you where it needs to be, guys, just reach out to us at dealerconnect@kinze.com, and we'll be certain to get that forwarded to you. So thank you for that.
We actually had one more question come in.
Okay.
On lift and rotate planters, can there be a limit switch added for the user? Added for the user will have the planter fully lifted before rotating.
Absolutely. Question that's come up quite a bit over time is Kinze has actually been building, lifting, rotate planters since 1985. So a long time for that style and design. And with the 5670, guys, those position indicators have been included into the fold sequence that's running through the Blue Vantage. So you will see with the 5670 an indicator to know that the machine is clear at the top of the post before you rotate it. Please bear in mind that it's not going to limit the functionality. It's just going to give the operator better visibility of that process.
On the drawbar planters, can Kinze put two hoses from the drawbar cylinder to the tractor rather than having to use the BV to raise the hitch?
Okay, so we're discussing the 5700 and the 5900 with drawbar hitches. And at this point in time, that drawbar hitch is integrated into a function on the Blue Vantage, controlled by an IPN, etc. You certainly can. I have seen guys from a storage application that went to the cylinder and teed them off and gave themselves an extra set of hoses that allowed them a tractor direct operation. That would be something that would be handled locally there at the dealership to make that easier for the customer.
Is there a hose retention upgrade kit for the 5900 drawbar planters, like the 2-point?
The drawbar planter is going to have one that's similar to the 5700s. And so, yes, you're going to look within the current manuals. It's going to show what that looks like and the availability through repair parts. All right. Guys, once again, thank you for joining. One more day tomorrow, so we'd certainly like to invite you back tomorrow at the same time. We'll start again at 10 o'clock. And our topic for tomorrow is going to be twofold. We're going to look at fertilizer systems. This particular planter does have the dual product, which is a new offering. So we'll look at single product, dual product, what that looks like, settings, adjustments, maintenance, storage. But we're going to leave a little bit of time tomorrow for an open forum conversation. If there's something that we haven't touched on this week that you would like more information about, we're going to give you some time to get into the Q&A and throw questions at us, and we'll do our best to address those miscellaneous topics to kind of round things out for this week of service information. So thank you again, guys. Have a great day.